chairman of Heirs Holdings, Mr. Tony Elumelu, has called on operators to increase oil production so that the federal government can achieve energy security for Nigerians. Now, speaking at the 2025 Heirs Energies Leadership Forum, industry leaders had the discuss which brought together high-level decision makers, global energy chief executives, CEOs to forge actionable strategies for accelerating Nigeria's oil production with Nigeria's oil production growth roadmap acceleration imperatives as it's the theme for last Thursday's event. Mr. Elumelu said increased output would also enable the nation generate additional revenue. In the same vein, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Senator Heineken Lokpobiri, tasked operators in Nigeria's oil and gas industry to increase the nation's output to 4 million barrels per day. He said the nation currently produces more than 1.7 million barrels per day and has the target of producing 2.06 million barrels per day in 2025. But the target should be 4 million barrels per day in order to develop and execute projects and programs that would enable it produce more oil in the medium term to long term. Let's talk to Mr. Osanyade Igehon. He's the managing director, CEO of Heirs Energy. He anchored that event last Thursday. It's good to have you in our Abuja studio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining. All right, there. Thank you for your time too. Well, let's start with this Heirs Energies Leadership Forum 2025. It's a private and public sector leaders, you put them together. But let me first of all ask you, what actually prompted the creation of this Leadership Forum event?
Thank you for having me. As I said, you know, as you mentioned, we brought this industry dialogue together because it was important for the indigenous companies to begin to take a lead to discussing how to move forward the industry. As you know, with the recent divestments that have been approved by the federal government, we now see a scenario where indigenous companies control about 60% of Nigeria's oil production. With that in mind, it's now very important that we need to start taking the lead around having the conversations as to how the industry will be charted. So Heirs Industries took the lead. And just as we take the lead in shaping a lot of agenda, we put the lead forward to put the team forward to discuss to discuss the subject of Nigeria's oil production growth and the acceleration opportunities therein, with a broad spectrum of the industry leadership to discuss this agenda. And so that was the purpose for putting this discourse together, for the indigenous industry to take the lead to start charting forward progress for the industry.
Indeed, I saw real top government functionaries and everyone, regulatory agencies, at this gathering. What were the most significant commitments or insights from these engagements in your thoughts?
Yeah, so we explored a number of different areas. First of all, we explored what has been the progress so far. Starting from very lows of less than 1 million barrels, we are producing at about 1.8 million barrels today as of January, and it continues to increase. And the underpinning reasons for all of that is improved security, improved regulatory framework, improved policies that enables the indigenous companies, and also the presidential directives, which have been very critical to unlock the progress and the pace at which things are being done. Then looking forward, there's a conversation around two key production targets, 2.1 million for 2025, and then to get to 2.7 million by 2027. But as the minister even pointed out, we should be aiming for 2.5 million this year. And then there was a conversation, what are the key enablers around that? And they were looked at from different perspectives. One key enabler was seen as the continuation and sustenance of the security framework that has been key to enable the growth. The other aspect had to do with collaboration amongst all the different sector players, from the government to the regulators to the operators, to work assiduously to move forward with the agenda of investment and rejuvenation of the onshore and further investment to grow production. And there were aspects as to, so to speak, the integration of the sector, further integration with value chain expansion and with other sectors to move things forward, e.g. like with power. So I think it was a pivotal conversation. And I think if you sum it all up, one of the key takeaways was that 2.1 million barrels and potentially even 2.5 million barrels per day is possible. This year is possible. And to get to 2.7 million barrels or even 3 million barrels of oil per day by 2027 is possible. It will take a lot of collaboration to make it happen, but it is possible and it will depend on all of us. And I think from the indigenous sector, it was important that we reflected and presented the position that with the vantage position we've been given in the industry to lead, that since we now control about 60% of the production of the country, that we will stand up to be counted and that we will deliver.
Indeed, the forum actually highlighted the success of private sector participation in the industry, with indigenous companies now responsible for over 60% of Nigeria's production. My question to you really would be, how critical is public-private collaboration in achieving the government's ambitious target of 2.5 million barrels per day in 2025?
It's completely pivotal. That is what has brought us to this point, and it even needs to be intensified going forward. So if you take the case of Heirs Energies, Heirs Energies, as you know, is a member or an investee company of the Heirs Holding Group, which is chaired by Mr. Tony Elumelu. And it, as Heirs Holdings philosophy, which is based on Afro-capitalism, that is the intent by which we approach business. That is the intent by which we make investments. And it's really around a few key principles. One principle is that private sector should take the lead in terms of the economic advancement of Africa and Nigeria, importantly, and that the private sector will be working closely and under the guidance of government to achieve this. Another key principle is that it's about having a focus on dual bottom lines. One bottom line of commercial success and a second bottom line of social impact. So when you take all of these together, you can see that to make progress, it requires a handshake between the public sector and the private sector. In Heirs Energies, this is a clear case of what has happened and has resulted in the successes that we report. We took over our assets about 4 years ago. As at that time, it was producing about 27,000 barrels of oil per day, and we had less than 30 existing wells producing. We took over that asset, and today, if you look forward, we have reactivated 3 times the number of wells that we had. So we have about 100 wells producing now, and our production is double, both on oil and gas. On oil, we're producing over 55,000 barrels of oil per day, and on gas, we produce between 80 to 100 million scf of gas per day. And importantly, all our gas goes into the domestic market, enabling power plants. We feed directly 3 power plants, Transfer Farm, Geometric, and FIPL, many gas-based industries, and many other businesses. So when you look at it, the impact of what we produce from our OMX-17 asset enables, we believe, about 2 million homes and enables lots of livelihoods and lots of improving the quality of life. So that is the result, a clear result of public-private partnership. Our joint venture is actually 55% owned by government and 45% owned by us. Another clear case of public-private sector partnership. And importantly, in the ecosystem we operate, the public policy has a lot of influence. The presidential directives of last year made a critical, they were fundamental for the progress that we have achieved. So the unbundling of the contracting cycle that has been enabled by that, the unleashing of the private sector's ability to move quickly and grow production has been a key result of that. And it goes on, and you can see the progress that has been made, the track record that has been made in the recent past. And we are very confident that with the continuation and acceleration and deepening of the public and private sector partnership and collaboration, the goals that have been set up for the country for oil and gas production will be met.
Well, you got me there, because I wanted to ask you about the executive orders and, of course, regulatory reforms, how it has impacted your firm. But while taking it up from where you stopped, what further policy or fiscal measures do you think are needed to enhance investors' confidence and create a stable, growth-focused upstream sector?
Yes. So I think a lot has been done. And I think the first thing I would say that we look at as indigenous companies and as investors is that what has been done has already created a markedly improved ecosystem and operating system for companies to operate in and to thrive. A lot of the historical challenges have been addressed. You know, security, regulatory clarity, and also the enablement for efficiency and both operational and financial efficiency. The first thing that we will be saying is consistency and sustainability of these policies will be key to attract the investors that are not yet on ground benefiting from this advantage. The other aspect is then areas around policies that will encourage, let's call it new entrants and new investment, and also to ensure that the ones that are the investors in-house can bring in more investments to play. We truly believe that a lot of the ingredients are in play. There are a few key things that are still being progressed. Things around, for example, onshore, there is a requirement for the pipelines to have more intelligent. We have an intelligent approach to metering. That is key. Production allocation is also key. These are technical aspects that need to be addressed, but the overall framework to ensure that investors feel attracted, they are attracted and they feel comfortable to invest and be assured of their returns are in place. So my word to investors will be to look at what we have done, what Heirs Holding has done, taking a key stake in the oil and gas industry, and see the transformation and the improvement and the impact we have made in just 4 years. Properly run, properly governed, working to international standards, and making a tangible impact to the energy supply and the energy dynamics and security of our country. And as we grow, we aim to expand this impact beyond our shores into Africa. So I think Nigeria is open for business. I mean, it's clear. Nigeria oil industry that has been through a period of decline is now seeing a period of growth. And so I think we need more investors, we need more indigenous participation and international participation for us to grow the industry to its full potential, which, by the way, is not 3 million, it's north of that.
Well, interesting stuff there, because sustaining this and scaling it up is something that is also very important. What are you looking at around that space?
We are a very ambitious company. Organically, from the OMS 17 asset that we have today, our aim is to take it to 100,000 barrels.
Wow.
So it will be triple what we got it from, and take the gas to north of 150 million scf per day, which is also triple of what we got it from. It's going to take a lot of investment. We have made significant investments already, but we are going to make even more investments. And that kind of underpinned our overarching leadership forum, which we had last week, of which the leadership dialogue was the external facing piece, which is around, how do we accelerate our growth? So we are very keen to walk that path. And just as Nigeria is looking to grow its production, I think Heirs Energies can be counted upon to make a very tangible contribution towards that growth.
Well, the increased responsibility of Nigerian independent companies in driving production growth was, of course, the central theme of discussion. What are the biggest challenges that these operators face as at today?
Yes, so, I mean, the challenges of yesterday are slightly different from the challenges of today.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the biggest challenge was, for example, security and pipeline integrity. I mean, everybody will know that in 2021, at the end of 2021 and early 2022, we cried out over the spate of crude oil theft. which was taking away all the results of our work and almost impoverishing companies and all the stakeholders. But that has been robustly challenged. That is a fundamental challenge that most companies onshore faced. And that has been roundly challenged. If you look at it, I mean, at the lowest ebb of that challenge, in December 2021, we only got 3% of our production. Today, we are getting well over 95% of our production to the terminal. That is a remarkable change. And so if you look at it from an investor confidence level and a return point of view, it is the right environment to operate in. So that's table stakes, that's the foundation. So we'll now begin to look at other things. Policies. We've seen the improvement, we've seen the PIA being established, we've seen the presidential directives, which is now enabling us to move faster, more definitively, and more intentionally. And then there is also the completion of the landmark divestments last year, which provides clarity for the industry. So if we now say, with number of those things now foundationally set, as we move forward, what will be the next things that will now enhance the industry to take us forward from where we are, that will catalyze and support the growth we are looking for. So things around funding and getting the right architecture and diversity of funding options will be key, particularly for project finance, for large-scale projects. We'll also be looking at, there are still elements to be done around, as I mentioned. It's key to sustain the improvements that have been made. And it's also important that as we move forward, that we don't only focus on the operating companies, but we also focus on the servicing companies, the companies that provide service to the operators, because that's a very important component. If you take Heirs Energies, for example, we're a wholly Nigerian company. All of my staff, 100%, are Nigerian, and we have key, innovative, and cutting-edge capabilities that have allowed us to demonstrate mastery and leadership in brownfield engineering. And if you look at the service sector, 95% of our contractors, both in numbers and volumes, are Nigerians. But when you look at if you look back, the industry had been a bit challenged in the period of decline we have now gone out of. So that sector of the industry also need to be supported, because for us to achieve the growth that we are looking for is going to be significantly supported by these service companies that provide us contracting services. So that element, the tools to achieve the growth, we also need to focus on.
Let's talk about energy security as we almost wrap up this conversation. Gas is a transition fuel and a key talking point also at this forum. But what is Heirs Energy's strategy for gas development? Let me ask you that. And how can Nigeria harness its vast, I used to say, it's proven and unproven reserves of gas that we have in this country?
Yes, thank you. We know that Nigeria is even more a gas province than an oil province. We are gas rich. I mean, it is stated that we have over 210 trillion cubic feet of gas in place. And there's significant developments, but we are not anywhere close to potential at this. Heirs Energies, again, is an example of what can be done. We took over our asset at about 50 million scopes of gas per day. Today, we are producing double that, and we want to triple it. I think the mindset of every operator has to be around how do you double and how do you triple production. Interestingly, we have done it so far with brownfield excellence. You know, our unique approach towards managing old and aged assets to still perform at levels that beyond, in some cases, beyond where they've ever produced. So we are going to continue on that march to go brownfield and selective greenfield to grow our gas production, as I said, to north of 150 million scopes over the next period. And that our gas, we destinate most of it to the domestic market for power generation, for gas-based industries, and for other utilities in-house, as well as support the energy security drive. But when you step back and look at the overall space around energy security, for our country and for Africa. You know, there's a dominant global conversation, which is somewhat changing though, around energy transition. But for Nigeria, for sub-Saharan Africa, our energy transition journey has to be energy sufficiency. It is said that over more than 500 million Africans do not have access to energy. So in that scenario, the whole conversation that is talked about energy transition, which is moving from fossil fuel to non-fossil or low carbon fuels, that is the dominant conversation in the global north, cannot be the conversation for us. Our conversation, our intent, and our purpose has to be, how do we fulfill our energy needs? And the reality of it all, to put it simply, is that it's going to require for us to use all our sources to meet our energy deficiencies. We are going to require oil and petroleum liquids. We are going to require gas, and we are going to require renewables. All of it is a situation of and not a situation of or. It's going to be required for us to be able to attain energy security in a very short pace of time.
Well, interesting chat, I must say. But before I let you go, what final message would you like to share, of course, with investors, policymakers, industry leaders, about the future of Nigeria's upstream sector, and of course, and the roles, Heirs Energy's roles in it?
Yes. No, so thank you very much. I think the first message is that for those who have doubts that, you know, with the international oil companies pulling out of onshore and indigenous companies coming in, whether there are reasons to be afraid, I think the first thing is to douse that tension and that doubt to say the indigenous companies will deliver. And they will deliver not just because we say so, because there is a track record of over 15 years of companies of indigenous companies that have delivered in the upstream, in midstream expansion, and integration to downstream. You also see that there is the desire for growth for Nigerian oil and gas industry and Nigerian oil production will be achieved. And this is pivotal not just only to our energy security, it's also pivotal to our national financial security. That will be delivered. The progress that has been made in the past, in less than 2 years, is a confidence factor, and that we will be able to deliver the growth targets for 2.1 to 2.5 for this year and 2.7 for 2027. The third thing I would like to also give us a confidence that there is now the realization that as opposed to the thinking in the past few years that that the oil is kind of declining or is coming to an end, but we can see that oil is going to remain a key, oil and gas is going to remain a key component of the global energy supply. And so that safeguards that important resource we are so blessed with. And lastly is to say that Heirs Energies will not just be a player or a participant in this journey. We are working very hard to shape the journey, and we are shaping it for the betterment and the improvement of all of Nigeria and every one of us who are stakeholders in this country and in the journey to make life and livelihoods better for all of us.
I must thank you so much, Mr. Sonyade Igehon, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Heirs Energies. Thank you for joining us on the show. We hope to have you again in to see how the process is going, upgrades and all of that around your workings. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time on Business Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.
All right, then.